Video quickly run through some of the biggest mistakes people make with AdSense. Making these mistakes could cost you your account or at least will damage your revenue. So, the biggest mistake and the most common mistake I see people making is in user-generated content. You are responsible for everything on your site, whether you wrote it or someone else did. And you have to be able to review this before ads are shown. I wouldn't show ads on content I hadn't reviewed myself. So you want some system for doing that. The sad reality is one spammer could destroy you. You go away for the weekend, leave your site running, and someone posts a whole load of pornographic content or violent content, and then Google is just going to shut you down. They've got to protect their advertisers, and they can't have ads shown next to that sort of content. Their advertisers don't like that. The content guidelines that you've got to be aware of, so when you're reviewing your site, look out for these things. No adult content, you probably know that. Hacking and cracking content, that's not allowed. Violent content, if someone's posting a fight video, you have to either take that down or turn the ads off. And weapon content, so if you have a gun blog, you probably don't want to be putting advertising on that. That probably comes out under that weapon content policy. There's also restrictions on things like alcohol, drug and tobacco related content, but it's not quite as strong as the adult content. For example, no adult content. Things like home brewing and content related to stopping smoking. Google is generally okay with that, but you remember it's an algorithm looking through it. It's not a real person initially, so your site may be flagged up, but will actually be okay. So you ought to be very careful about writing in those topics. And if you're selling any of those products, alcohol, drug-related stuff, or tobacco, you can't have advertising at all. People misplace ads. Ads have to be kept away from images, text links, or anything people are likely to click on, because otherwise you're trying to manipulate it, and that's not fair on the advertisers. I like to have an exclusion zone, so sort of white space around the ads, so anybody going in across to the ad is because they're going to click on the ad. They're not being lured there by wanting to copy and paste a picture or click on a link that's very close. Google is very good at identifying this and will send you a warning. So just don't do it. Overblending ads. Google has a color policy, so you have to be very careful with the colors you're using and how you're using them. Generally you want ads to be clear on the page, and if you stick with Google defaults, you're not going to go too far wrong. Google is not choosing the worst color scheme for their ads. They're interested in making ad revenue too, so they're probably decided that the Google defaults are in general the best. You don't want to be lowering competition. Remember, advertisers have to bid for space. They're putting in a bid for the ad, and you don't want all the ads that pay 1 cent or 1 pence. So you allow as many ad types as you possibly can. You don't want to be over blocking categories, and you want to include link units as well. And make sure your site is targetable, so you can put a description of your site and other things in double click, which will go a long way to helping your revenue. If some advertiser decides they want to target your site specifically, you will get a big boost from that. Ads below the fold. The fold is what you see when you first click through to a site before you scroll down. And most people, or you'd be surprised, quite a high proportion of people will just see that and leave. You'll get a lot of what they call bounce visitors. And so far fewer people will see the ads below the fold, and click-through rate will be poor, especially if all of your ads are below the fold. But you don't want to just, for the opposite reason, crowd it and have 3 ad units and 3 link units all above the fold. So you have to space ads, because Google will class you as an ad farm, and Google doesn't like ad farms. Some of their updates have meant that sites have been damaged for having too much advertising. So you want to be careful about that. Make sure ads are spaced, but there's still at least one above the fold. Don't touch the AdSense code. If Google says not to touch it, don't touch it. It's very easy to detect that the AdSense code has been messed with. If you want to make changes to an ad code, go into your AdSense control panel and create another ad unit. Don't go meddling with it. You want to stay on the right side of Google. Another thing people often get done for is putting writing under ads. This can often be done to mislead people, and it's not a good idea. So you don't attach any taglines, things like made possible by, sponsored by, brought to you by. Just don't put these under ads. Sponsored by, if you were the advertiser, you wouldn't necessarily want to say that you are sponsoring the site. You may not agree with the site, so things like that are not a good idea. Just avoid those. Another thing people get wrong is saying that money goes to charity. That's a very nice thing to do, donate your AdSense revenue to charity, but you just can't say that, because people will be you'll be encouraging people to click just because they feel like it's a donation. So if you're going to donate it to charity, very good, just don't splash it over your site, because that's not fair on the advertisers. And just keep remembering that exclusion zone, that nice bit of white space around the ad that you can't really go wrong with. So hopefully I've saved you from a few of the big mistakes. These are not all the mistakes, and good luck with your AdSense.